Yeah. Got quiet all of a sudden.
We're going to call the meeting to order tonight for the Hopkinton Town Council of December 3rd, 2012. We'll, for a moment of silent meditation and salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I have a motion to sit as the licensing board?
So moved. Second.
All those
You
in
got
favor?
it. Whichever. Aye.
Enthusiastic.
Okay. We're going to open up the meeting tonight with a Class B BV liquor license transfer on an application for the transfer of Class BV liquor license from Pavilion Properties, LLC, doing business as Pavilion Restaurant, Denise Bork and Stephen Bork, 31 Maple Street, Hope Valley, Rhode Island, 02832, Irma D. Valdez of 4 George Street, Westerly, 02891, and Silverio Martinez, 27 Pierce Street, Westerly, 028, Rhode Island, 02891, for property located at 15A Frontier Road, Ashaway, Rhode Island, 02804, to Frontier Road Properties, LLC, Raymond J. Quinlan, 115 Togwonk Road, Stonington, Connecticut, 06378, doing business as Pavilion Steakhouse. Is the applicant or representative present?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Attorney George Camoli. I have the pleasure of representing Frontier Road Properties. Okay. Frontier Road Properties is a Rhode Island limited liability company whose sole member, Raymond Quinlan, is with me tonight. The sole proprietor and member of the LLC is also the proud owner of 15A Frontier Road, which is the home of the Pavilion Restaurant. The Pavilion Restaurant has been with us for some time. Historically, originally, the owner, Randu, was going to close it, tear it down. Mr. Quinlan decided he was going to save that for the benefit of his other businesses on Exit 1. Subsequently, Dennis Bork and his wife Denise took it over with their 2 partners, and now at the present time we're asking that it be transferred from Pavilion Properties LLC to Frontier Road Properties, the real estate holder. The BV license will be transferred subject to any and all referrals from the appropriate authorities, subject to us paying certain bills, which I understand you received a letter tonight, and we understand we must pay those. Also, on behalf of Frontier Road Properties, I would move as an exhibit the new license for the steakhouse, the new menu, excuse me. I only have 2 copies, one for the clerk and one for you to pass up. Of course, any and all licenses of that are transferred are a privilege. Mr. Quinlan is intimately familiar with the laws as they relate to a Class B vicular license. Each and every person who serves alcohol will be tip and stop certified. The hours of operation will be expanded to include Monday night. I just asked that question. Additionally, you will not, when you go there, you'll still see Denise Bork. She plans on staying there and continue to work for the company. We would request the license be granted subject to all the appropriate referrals, are paying any and all outstanding bills, and both I and Mr. Quinlan will be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thanks, George.
I'll move what he just said. That's a perfect motion. Is that acceptable to you?
It's more than acceptable.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
May I be fast?
Yes,
Sorry.
George, am I clear that you're referring to the 2 bills that we have in front of us from Paul Pisano?
Yes.
Okay, so those are the 2, and you'll make sure that any others that are outstanding are paid as well?
It would be a condition of the license transfer. Any bills that are due any distributor, any bills to do any utility company would have to be paid. All taxes would have to be current.
And I need Bernaise sauce on the ribeyes.
As long as I don't cook it.
You don't have it on the menu. And Denise is really lovely. I'm glad she'll be staying. Thank you. Just checking.
Barbara, would you do me a favor and just identify those 2 specific bills that you received?
Yes, the bills that we received from Mr. Pisano, attorney, is Rhode Island Distributing Company and Johnson Brothers of Rhode Island.
Thank you.
And I'll include that in my statement.
Well, the motion's been made and seconded. It's already done.
That's already been
But I
done.
agree to that change.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
For your own, we've already paid those bills.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
George, I just had one quick question. So Denise is staying on, the husband is not?
I'm not sure the exact
Okay.
makeup, but we are bringing in a new management team.
Okay.
The new management team specializes in steakhouse, and they're trying to revitalize the facility. If you went there, you would notice that there's new carpeting, new landscaping. There's been substantial improvements. We're trying to revitalize one of the amenities that is offered to Ashaway. You had very few. Hopefully, this will continue.
That sounds fabulous, thank you.
I'm the one who asked for Monday nights.
I'm the one that asked for Renee.
So we have a motion, we have it seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman. Thank you, members of the
Thank you.
council.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is holiday sales license renewals. Want to open a hearing on the renewal of the following holiday sales licenses. Ashaway Mart, Captain Dave's Seafood, Dunkin' Donuts, Fenner Hill Country Club, Hack and Livery, General Store, Holly Tree Campground, Pavilion Restaurant, Holy Cow, Hopkinton Liquor Depot, Legends Bar and Grill, Lynbrook Golf Club, Lucky House Restaurant, Ma and Pa's Country Store, Main Street Pizza, Nicholas Greenhouse and Plant Farm, Patsy's Garden Center, Pete's Grocery, Barker's Market, Spicer Marketplace, Spring Street Market, Uri Outfitters, Vatican Farm Nursery and Woodcrafts, Village Place, Whispering Pines Corporation, Wood River Golf, Wyoming Fruit and Vegetable.
Motion to
motion.
grant renewal to each license subject to all state and town regulations being met and all town taxes current prior to issue.
Second.
All those in favor?
Wait,
Look at that for a public comment.
I got a question.
Discussion.
Is there any public comment on these license
We
renewals?
should go to the council
Discussion.
first.
Why do we have an asterisk next to Wyoming fruit and vegetable?
I'm not sure.
I haven't received their application yet, but I'm sure.
Oh, okay.
Is there any folks out in the audience that wish to comment on these license renewals? No?
okay.
We have a motion and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Have a good evening, have a good Christmas. And Hanukkah. And holidays. And Kwanzaa.
Do I have a motion to adjourn as licensing board and reconvene as council?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Approve the town council meeting minutes of November 19th, 2012.
Move that we approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, on page 2,
Okay. Okay.
under consent agenda.
Page 2. Okay.
Page 2, under consent agenda, executive session meeting minutes, June 20 was pulled and is not on the approval. It was pulled last time, it was not approved.
Was not part of that, okay.
No.
Nice.
Could you tell me that again? It was page 2.
Page 2.
Under
Consent
consent agenda.
agenda.
Yeah.
If you, where it says follows,
Mhm.
what we're approving is executive session meeting minutes, June 20th, August 1st, September 6th, September 19th, October 3rd. The June 20th was not
Was not
approved.
part of that, yeah.
Was not part of that.
Any other comments, questions from the council?
How did June 20th get there? Was there,
They were just listed, there was a list of them, and I recall that,
We pulled that.
that it was not on that, I've added that in also,
okay.
but they were removed.
All right.
Motion to approve town council meeting minutes of November, oh, we've already done that, sorry.
Yeah. Frank, a question on page 8.
Page 8.
Should that be my name instead of Tom Buck's? I'm in favor, or am I in the wrong day?
Where are you, Dave? What part?
Page 8 on the in favor.
Oh, yes.
The two in favors.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy, we're sneaking him in there. I didn't even see that.
I'm telling you.
No,
think
no
other-
buck.
Those things that-
Other than that, that's,
Yep, that's page 8.
It didn't happen anywhere else, did it?
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
No. Oh, we're gonna have to watch that.
Well, there's another thing on the second one on Buck, on the probate judge, it says Buck.
No, it's the same as on,
Yeah, both of them.
yeah,
Right.
no, there's the other one up here,
What page, same page?
same page.
Yeah,
page 8.
two of them, yeah, both of them, yeah,
Both
yeah,
on page eight.
both of them.
There's two of them that I see.
No, I slipped out for a minute. I slipped out for a minute, Tom slipped in.
So we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
With corrections.
With corrections, okay. A second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. First, public forum. Anyone out there wishing to speak? Terry? No. Next on the agenda is the town solicitor's report, open meetings law refresher.
This is going to be very brief. Just wanted to give you a real brief refresher for those of you who have done it before, and some new information probably for Dave who hasn't done it before. But a couple things that you know that you've got to be careful of. One is anything you want to discuss and vote on has to be on the agenda, and it's got to be listed in the way you want it. If it doesn't say vote, you can't vote. You know, we spend as much time as we can making sure that it's as accurate as we can get it. But if you want something on the agenda with specific language, you got to let us know that ahead of time. We can't discuss or vote on anything that's not on the agenda. Now, there's an exception to that, which is that you can, by motion, add to the agenda. We generally don't do that, and I discourage it to the extent I'm able, only because I think it's a bad habit to get into. And I'm worried that if you do it a lot, it's going to look to the Attorney General's Department like we're not being serious about our agendas. If there's an emergency matter, though, that needs to go on, we can do it by motion, just like we would do any other motion. Motion, second, you vote to add something to the agenda. We can do it that way if there's something critical that's got to be added at the last minute. What this does is force you to think a little bit ahead of time about what you want to see on an upcoming agenda. The agenda has to be specific enough to apprise the public of what it is you're intending to do, so that they can make a reasoned decision about whether they want to be here to be part of it, basically. Sure. The public forum section of the agenda has been the subject of a couple of very specific rulings from the Attorney General's Department. You're allowed to interact with the person coming up at public forum and raising an issue. You can respond with informational type responses. If there's anything that's going to warrant a full discussion, however, we need to set it for a future agenda. So if somebody comes up and says, I want the council to look into streetlights on such and such, council can ask some questions about it, can respond, we're going to refer that to the town manager to look at, or whatever. You can respond with informational issues, but anything that's going to warrant a full discussion really needs to be reserved for a future agenda item, okay? And this is the kind of kicker, and in a certain sense it's nonsensical, but it is what it is. Council members cannot raise issues under public forum. The Attorney General's Department has ruled that you can't do that. If you want an issue raised as a council member, you need to put it on the agenda. You can't go stand at the lectern and say, I'm raising an issue. So you don't have that luxury. The solicitor for Charahoe actually raised a First Amendment objection to that about 6 months ago with the Attorney General's Department and asked them to take another look at it. They haven't issued a ruling on it yet. So we're still bound by their first ruling, which is you don't get to do that at public forum. So you could argue that by sitting at this table, you surrender a little bit of your First Amendment right to talk, but that's just the way it is. And this is the one I really wanted to talk to you about, and this is communications among you, because you can't, any town business has to be discussed at this table. It can't be discussed away from this table. And you can do discussions and reach a quorum by kind of insidious measures that you wouldn't even necessarily think were happening. So just be cautious whenever you're talking amongst yourselves about an issue. If more than two of you weigh in on an issue, and that can be in any form, and in what the Attorney General's Department calls a rolling quorum, meaning, and I'm going to start at this end of the table, Dave calls Barbara and talks to her about an issue. Barbara emails Frank and says, I was thinking about this, what do you think? That's a quorum, and you just discussed it, and you just violated the open meetings law. So you can't, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, you cannot discuss issues via email. You can't do it in some hybrid form of direct conversation and email. It's just not possible. You can't do it without violating the open meetings law. The one exception to this is scheduling. So you can talk to each other about scheduling a meeting, scheduling an issue, whatever it is. purely scheduling. That's the only exception. There is no other exception. So please, when you're communicating with each other about town business, you can all go down to the Pavilion tonight, sit around and have a drink and talk about Christmas, but you just can't talk about town business.
Sure.
Okay? Let's see. Oh, the only other thing I wanted to mention to you is that as the attorney for the town, any communications you have with me are privileged. Nobody can ever learn what those were. Nobody can ever subpoena documents related to my communications with you. When I send you emails, as I'll have a want to do on occasion, those are privileged. They're going to have at the top of them legally privileged communication. You don't share them with anyone. Nobody gets told what's in them. They're privileged. They stay that way. All of the advice that I give the town through the council is done in private. I try very hard not to do any of it from the chair. We do it in private because that's the nature of it. It stays confidential. So be careful when you find yourself shooting off an email to all the council members. Don't do it, generally speaking, because it just encourages people to respond. And be careful, please, when you're communicating with the public, that you don't include me on those communications, because it takes away any confidentiality that the issue will otherwise have. That's it. Anybody got any questions?
Barbara?
The issue about talking to each other, I do understand where the public, I understand public forum, and I have no problem with public forum because we have the opportunity to put things on the agenda and the public does not. I think that's perfectly valid, and I hope the school solicitor gets a no. Because it was a real problem at the school committee when the committee can talk at public forum. I think it's a mistake. However, the talking to each other, having the counselors talk to each other, I mean, when we began our country in the Continental Congress, we were all allowed, they all talked to each other in the bars, wherever they were, in order to come to any issue and to come to consensus, because the whole purpose is to come to consensus. And my problem that I have with that is that the senators and the representatives in the House in Rhode Island can do anything they want. They can all talk together, but for some reason, all of our smaller councils are not allowed to talk to each other. And I find it an incredible problem and issue. And I would like to know that the solicitors for the different councils are also speaking about this to the open meetings people. There should be something where we are allowed to discuss amongst ourselves, because that is what the House and the Senate can do in Rhode Island. They only disallow it on the councils, the 39 cities and town councils. I think it's a real breach of my First Amendment rights to be able to have free speech outside of council. And I know that the newspapers are interested in that, and Providence Journal has certainly put articles out in that, and I'd like to make sure that we're still discussing that. It is a problem, and it is a free speech right on my right outside of council.
Of course, the General Assembly exempted themselves from these laws.
Yes, they did.
They didn't want to be subject to them.
Exactly.
But they wanted to look to their certain constituencies like they were doing something, so they shifted it down the road to the cities and towns, because that way they can say, look, we're for good government, we're requiring the cities and towns to adhere to this, even though we don't have to do it ourselves.
Right, and I mean, if this is something that we can fight back on, because it's totally inappropriate. It just is inappropriate. And they did it specifically so that we were muffled, and they're not. And no one in the beginning of our entire country was ever muffled like that, our particular free speech. I understand why we need to keep it as open meetings. I have no problems with that. I think it should all be on the agenda we can discuss here. But we should be allowed to speak to our council members to come to consensus so we don't have fights on council or arguments on council.
Just a quick side note, Dave, if you give me 1 second. Why did the General Assembly vote to have that not a part of the meetings? I
Because
guess.
they wanted to be able to preserve
Call them up
the
and
types
ask them.
of...
No,
You
it's
know?
just right.
I didn't know if there was any legal reason.
No, it's a good question, but the answer's relatively simple.
Because they don't
right?
feel
It's just
like
they
it, you
didn't-
know?
Yeah, they didn't want
They
to
can
have
do
to
whatever
deal
they
with it.
want.
They wanted to be able to continue to have these. I mean, the concern is that if you allow the people's business, I'm going to use that term, to be done in private, that the people can't see the way it's done. Somebody would say to you, Barbara, in response to your argument, that's the backroom way politics used to be conducted. The Open Meetings Law and the Open Records Act, those are to let sunlight shine so that the people can see the way business is transacted, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
But the General Assembly, and the way the General Assembly deals with that whole issue is by saying to, you know, the people who are pushing these issues, the press and whatever, yeah, we hear you, we're taking action. Look, all the cities and towns have to adhere to this now, but they're not going to.
Exactly.
Councilman Husband, yeah.
Yeah, Pat, does the number of people who talk together on a subject such as you said, I talked to Barbara talks to Frank, then we've got a problem. Is that hinged on the number of people on the committee or the board or whatever?
Yes, it's a quorum, Dave.
So what I'm saying is if you had a seven-member council, 3 people could talk, but not 4.
Correct.
And if you have a 3-member, which we have on occasions, you know, not so much here, but if you have a 3-member council or board or commission, nobody can talk to anybody.
Right, and actually, I'm glad you raised that, Dave, because what I said with respect to the way you conduct your business applies to all the boards and commissions in town, too. All of the boards and commissions in town are obligated to adhere to the open
And if you've
meetings
got 3
law.
people on a board, there's no talking at all.
Well,
And that's ridiculous.
And, you know, I'm not at the meetings and I'm not involved in the things of the other boards and commissions, but how likely do you think it is that none of the people on the boards and commissions are not talking to each other, you know? So I'm glad you raised that.
I'm not saying it.
No, but I'm glad you raised it because it's a very good point, which is all the boards and commissions have to adhere to the exact same, law.
Well, you know, when you consider that the state senate has 38 members and the state house has 75, it's probably less a chance for a violation, although they talk about bills before, or the main bills before the legislature, but also when they have a Democratic caucus meeting, there's so few Republicans that the overwhelming majority of the legislature is there because I guess there's only be 4 Republicans in the state senate, maybe the independent sides with the Republicans. So, I mean, that's the majority of the Senate right there. I mean, virtually the whole Senate, because there's not that many Republicans up there. But that's also a problem when they have a Democratic caucus.
Right.
That's my 2 cents.
Sylvia, do you have anything?
Yes, I have a question for you. When you said a vote, you said it has to say vote. The terms that we've used in the past, and Lisa has used, for instance, under new business, you'll see where it say discuss, consider request.
Okay.
Now, when, Lisa, in the past, when we were going to likely vote on something, didn't you say discuss, consider? Did it all, I'm not sure that vote, the word vote was always used.
Oh, yeah.
Are you, I'm asking Pat,
It should have language.
so you would like it to specifically say vote?
Yes, it doesn't have to
That's
say
all I
vote.
need.
It can say render decision on.
Oh, okay,
You know
all
what I
right,
mean?
that's what you use,
Bill,
right?
did you make
Okay, yeah, there was some other,
I know in some of the other cities and towns, they use, you know, consider, discuss, and act upon.
there you go.
Fine, yeah,
Oh,
whatever,
okay.
as long as the language.
All right, just
is
wanted to be
enough
clear that you didn't have to, okay.
As long as, I mean, think of it in terms of if you were a member of the public.
Right.
Who wasn't a part of the council,
Right.
and you wanted to know what was going to be going on that night.
Mm-hmm.
Does this adequately give you enough information so that you could decide if you needed to be there to speak, or
Right.
whatever?
And Pat, these are all boards, I mean, these are all groups that are both elected and appointed?
Yes.
And how far down does it go? It doesn't go to ad hoc committees or blue ribbon study committees, does it? I mean, at what level do you stop saying this is necessary?
Any board or commission that's an arm of the council.
Okay.
So ad hoc would be, I guess.
We need to work on that.
Okay, I'm not done.
I'm sorry.
That's all right, I just want to let you know. The other thing that I wanted to mention is more of a statement. The issue of what the open meetings law has done, where we can't discuss, if there's 2 people can, but in our instance, you can't have more than, with the council, it can't be more than 3. I happen to, or it can't be more than 2, actually.
Right.
I happen to agree with this law because I've been around when, years ago, where there were discussions going on and things were decided in the back rooms, and it stunk, and it really stinged, and I didn't like it. So I happen to agree with this. So I'm not a person who was opposed to it. I know there are certain peculiarities, and I think they've gone overboard with some things.
Yeah.
However, I agree with this wholeheartedly.
And nothing prevents 2 of you from talking on an issue, so don't ever feel worried about just.
Usually,
two
it's
of you.
usually safe to always call the chairman.
Yeah, two of you talking on an issue is absolutely no problem, so don't, you know, it's not meant to stifle all discussion, it's just meant to stifle discussion that has the potential to.
I just have one quick question. You mentioned emergency agenda. Is that something that happens at a council meeting that night?
Yes.
You vote on it, quorum?
Yes.
And then that can be added on the agenda?
Yep.
Again, emergencies, what types of emergencies?
Well, I mean, let's assume that,
Bill could come up with an
Storms?
emergency.
well, I was gonna say, let's
Yeah,
assume a storm's
storm-related.
working.
Okay,
You
okay.
know, it's Monday night and there's gonna be a huge storm tomorrow, and you wanna let people know about.
Certain things,
Certain
there's gonna be a
There was
shelter
great
or something.
fire,
Yeah.
And we needed to fire, and you had to close roads.
Sure. But, you know, those are the kinds of things. And I want you to understand fully that this is my own preference, that you not add unless it's an emergency. You can add anything you want to, basically, the night of a meeting by motion, second, vote. I prefer that you not do it because I think it makes you sloppy ultimately with the agendas, and I'm trying to keep you on the straight and narrow with respect to the Attorney General's Department. So, and it's worked out pretty well so far for 6 years. You know, just trying not to do it unless it's absolutely necessary. If you've got something that you want on, then try and just use a little bit of foresight so we can get it on, you know, the week before, or wait till the next meeting. If it's something that absolutely cannot wait till the next meeting, like sometimes we get stuff that's time pressure, time deadline pressure, that kind of thing. You know, then we can do it by motion, second vote that night.
But you'll know about that, and so would Bill, and we
I
can
would
make,
hope so,
yeah, we
yeah.
would certainly be able to make that determination.
Yep.
No emergencies.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
I guess, anybody else, are you guys all set with that? Okay, next on the agenda is the town manager's report. Bill McGarry?
Thank you. On November 27th, newly elected Councilor Dave Husband and myself had the opportunity to tour the town and inspect several of the town's buildings, which provided him an opportunity to meet many of the town employees and familiarize himself with town-wide operations. We've done that in the past, and it's been very, very successful. We stopped at the Crandall House, the Town Hall, Thayer House, the Police Department, Department of Public Works, and it also benefited our employees in that they were afforded the opportunity to meet Dave, our new counselor, as well. So it was a good day for a field trip.
I'd like to second that. It was a good time. Bill provided a nice tour, real nice tour. Thank you, Bill. And I found the employees very upbeat. Nice. It was really good to meet.
Well, thank you.
Good group.
The next day, the 28th, I attended a FEMA kickoff meeting in Town Hall Council Chambers, and also present were Finance Director Laura Kenyon, DPW Director Tim Teff, Chief Palmer, and several Rhode Island EMA and FEMA officials. And the purpose of this meeting was to discuss the guidelines for reimbursement purposes related to Tropical Storm Sandy. And as a result of the federal, state, and municipal disaster declarations, the town of Hopkinton is entitled to 75% of the storm-related expenses. This is very similar to past meetings that we had in 2010 with the flood and 2011 with Hurricane Irene. So we're pretty familiar with the procedures, but it was just nice to get the update from the FEMA officials on what's allowable and what's not. Tomorrow, all bids are due in the clerk's office for the purchase and replacement of the existing DPW fuel distribution management system. And lastly, on November 26th, we received correspondence from FEMA in which they gave their final approval, finally, to the town's hazardous mitigation plan that was effective November 10th. Very good. That plan is good for 5 years. Now, the release of the funds is still contingent upon the signing of the award letter by Rhode Island EMA officials and town officials, which should take place in about 2 weeks or so, according to EMA representatives. And once that happens, we can begin work on the South Road Drainage Project. We're just ready to do some test pits and some surveying. We've got everything lined up with Fuss & O'Neill. You know, the money's already committed. All the estimates that came in are under bid, so we're just waiting for that final agreement, and once we get that, we get the green light and off we go. So hopefully that project will be completed by the spring of next year.
That's fab, so you're going to be able to even do that in February or before spring?
No, we have to do a lot of preliminary work, but we can't even begin the preliminary work until the agreement is signed.
Right.
Once the agreement is signed, we'll do the preliminary work, more design work, and then we'll begin and complete construction. It shouldn't take that long, maybe 7 to 10 days in the spring, once the weather
Yeah,
breaks.
you just said before spring, and I'm going, how marvelous. That was your first.
Probably during the spring.
During spring.
Should have
Makes more
said,
sense.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I thought it was during spring.
Anybody else have
I
a
was
question for the
hoping.
town manager? Scott, no? Bill, I just had a quick question. How many bids, or maybe Lisa knows too, did you get for the fuel distribution system?
Well, they have until 3 o'clock tomorrow to submit.
Right.
So far, I think we had 1.
Oh,
But that's not uncommon.
Oh, it's not, okay,
Sometimes it'll be
all right.
that day.
Yep,
I
okay.
think 3 full specs packages were emailed out to my knowledge.
Okay.
It was advertised.
It was also listed on the homepage of the website, and that's where most of them get them from,
Oh,
because there's a complete package
Oh, okay.
with all the bidding documents that are needed, so a lot of times they don't even go through my office or the clerk's
Oh, okay.
office, they go right online.
Okay, yep, thanks. Does anybody else have anything for Bill? Okay, thanks, Bill, appreciate it. Okay, next on the agenda is new business. Discuss, consider request of Land Trust Board of Trustees for workshop with the council on December 17th, 2012 at 6:30. Is there anyone here from the Land Trust? I don't think so.
I talked to Marilyn tonight.
Okay.
And
Are they going to plan on coming? Or?
they would like to come, and the reason they asked for that particular date, and they referenced it in their letter, is some of the members are going to be away in January and February, so they wanted to come on the 17th. I hope it's a good night for everybody, because we usually have, very little to do in the month of December.
Yep.
And I'd like to see it at not a workshop, but at our special meeting. I mean, at our regular
Town council meeting.
scheduled town council meeting,
Okay.
since we don't have much on the agenda. And I'd like to have it openly aired and have it on, for viewing by anybody who might be interested.
I didn't know, are they planning on coming tonight, I guess is my question.
No.
Anybody?
No.
Okay, all right.
No.
So, okay, Barbara, do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't have a question, it's just December 17th, there's a good chance I won't be there.
Okay.
I would say that I am the liaison to the Land Trust. I haven't called Marilyn at all, but I will call her. But I won't go to that next meeting because I have a range meeting I have to run and give a report. But I will call her. I do think it should be at a regular meeting, and so people can draw their own conclusions. But it doesn't make sense to have it at 6:30. We don't know if there would be a reason for an executive session. I assume probably
No,
not.
there's no reason for
but-
an executive.
No.
It should be
But
till
I
7
mean,
o'clock.
it's, the agenda is really going to be sparse.
I think what I'll do is I'll put it on the agenda. It's a toss-up whether it's new or old. I think it's kind of old, but,
It's never been on a council meeting, so it would
Oh, it
have to be.
hasn't? Okay.
Yeah, we've never had a meeting, so
No,
it would be
okay.
new business.
Okay, so we'll put it on as a new agenda item, and I guess probably change the time from 6:30 to 7. I
Yeah, and
guess.
Barbara, if you are gonna be away, it wouldn't hurt if you want anything particular.
I have
Let
notes.
us know.
Yeah, I have notes that
Good.
can be written. I already have notes written.
Now, did I understand, Scott, that you won't be here either?
I'll
No,
be here.
Oh,
No,
okay.
he wasn't
meant
going
for
to
the
lunch.
next-
I'm not going to go to the next
Land
Land
Trust
Trust meeting.
I'm sorry.
Because
okay.
I have a
Because I was gonna
range
say,
meeting I
if
gotta
you're
run
not
and
gonna
give a
be here, we
report.
really should postpone it, but
Yeah.
okay. All right.
No,
Barbara, I take it you're okay with me going forward? with
Oh,
your absence?
yes, I have notes. I have
Just make sure
notes written.
someone gets it. maybe.
I'll be at the next.
I'll give it to you,
Yeah.
Fred.
All right, so you want to make a motion, Sylvia?
we don't need one.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
just
Just a
Oh, okay,
schedule.
okay, all right.
Just schedule it.
Yeah, so
ask
what,
Lisa to please notify.
yeah, Lisa, if we could please let them know that we'll place it on the agenda for the 17th of December and change the time from 6:30 to 7. And,
We'll start off then.
Well, we start off, they'll be much later in the meeting.
right.
So there's not much on.
Okay.
So,
It's up to,
so you don't say 7, you just say it'll be during a meeting at such
Yeah,
and such
yeah.
and such.
Okay. I think, does that, anybody else have any questions on that? Okay. Thank you. And second, public forum, anyone wishing to speak? No, okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Madam, excuse me. Mr.
Thanks,
It's
Scott.
a
I
habit.
apologize.
No problem.
Mr. President,
accept
I
it.
move
Yeah.
that the Hopkinton Town Council adjourn in memory of the late May Champlin and the late Helen Edwards.
Okay, that's fine.
Second.
I would like to add something too.
Okay.
Oh,
Barbara?
sorry.
I would like to also adjourn in the memory of Gregory Provenciano, just died today.
Oh, I didn't know that. Greg was quite a character. I enjoyed
Yeah.
knowing him.
He
I will
just-
include him in my motion.
He just died today.
Now I'll make the second. Okay.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, folks.